Dear viewers, today's story will touch your heart in ways you never imagined. Jordan Walker was just 25, yet life had made him feel far older. He was a tall, quiet young man from Detroit's East Side, with weary eyes and shoulders heavy from responsibility. After his father passed away during the COVID-19 pandemic, Jordan became the man of the house. His mother, Linda, struggled with diabetes and high blood pressure, and his younger sister, Kayla, was in her final year at Howard University. Everything rested on him. Every day, Jordan worked himself to the bone just to keep food on the table, and the bills paid. He delivered food for DoorDash in the daytime, drove for Uber in the evenings, worked overnight as a security guard, and picked up construction shifts on the weekends. He barely slept. Debt collectors rang day and night, threatening to take the little they had left. Jordan never complained, but inside he was drowning. One sweltering summer afternoon, everything changed. Jordan had just finished a delivery downtown and stopped at a soul food spot to buy a cheap meal, fried chicken with mac and cheese. He stood at the counter, counting the wrinkled dollar bills in his hand, when he noticed something unusual outside. A black Rolls-Royce Phantom had pulled up, and a woman inside was watching him through the tinted glass. The door swung open, and out stepped a woman who seemed almost otherworldly. She wore exquisite jewelry and designer clothes, carrying herself with quiet authority. Her skin seemed to glow. Her silver hair was meticulously styled, and she moved with the poise of a queen. This was Mrs. Evelyn Williams, one of the most powerful African-American businesswomen in the United States. Her empire spanned real estate, tech, entertainment, and logistics. But why was she watching Jordan? She walked straight up to him and asked calmly, "You're Jordan Walker, aren't you?" Jordan blinked, confused. "Yes, ma'am, but how? Do you know my name?" She studied him closely, as if reading his entire life in his face. "I know about your mother's hospital bills, your sister's tuition, and the 3 jobs you work just to survive. I know everything." Jordan took a step back. "Ma'am, I don't understand. How do you know all this?" Her smile didn't waver. "Because I've been watching you." Then she said something that made his heart stop. "If you want, I can change your life forever. But there's one condition. You must marry me." The clamor of Detroit streets seemed to fall silent. Jordan wondered if he was dreaming. "Ma'am, marry you?" "Yes," she answered firmly. "A legal marriage, fully documented. In return, I'll pay off all your debts, cover your sister's education, secure the best medical care for your mother, and give you a life of peace." Jordan had no idea what to say. He had no reason to trust this stranger. Still, something about her felt sincere, even if the offer sounded impossible. She handed him a thick white card with gold lettering. "Call this number when you're ready." Then she returned to the car and was gone. Jordan stood frozen, his food forgotten, in his hands. That night, his mother's blood pressure spiked again. They couldn't afford another ER visit. His sister called in tears. Howard University had given her a 48-hour deadline to pay her fees. And the next morning, 2 men in black suits knocked on their apartment door. Loan sharks. They gave Jordan one last warning: pay up or face the consequences. With nowhere else to turn, Jordan dialed the number. Within 2 days, everything moved at lightning speed. First-class plane tickets to Los Angeles arrived. A black SUV met him at the airport and drove him straight to the Beverly Hills courthouse. Inside, surrounded by high-profile guests, Jordan stood beside Mrs. Evelyn Williams, regal and timeless, and signed the marriage papers. Lawyers, witnesses, photographers, everything was legal and official. From that moment, Jordan's world flipped upside down. The Beverly Hills mansion he now called home looked like something out of a dream. Golden chandeliers, Italian marble floors, a garden the size of a football field, private chefs, housekeepers, drivers, everything he had ever imagined and more. Yet beneath the beauty, something felt off. The staff rarely spoke unless spoken to. They treated Mrs. Evelyn like royalty, almost as if they feared her. Whenever Jordan asked about the locked doors on the second floor, the answer was always the same. That area is private, sir, only for Mrs. Williams. She herself treated Jordan with polite distance. They ate dinner together every evening, but conversation was brief. She'd ask if he was comfortable, if he liked the meals, and then she would return to office calls with people in London or Tokyo. They were married, yet strangers. Even so, Jordan stayed grateful. His mother was flown to the best hospital in California and her health improved. His sister returned to Howard with her tuition paid in full. The debt collectors stopped calling, but at night, when the mansion fell silent, Jordan lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering, who is Mrs. Evelyn Williams really? What's behind that locked door? And why had an 85-year-old billionaire chosen him? Jordan had been in the mansion a little over a week, and already he sensed something was wrong. From the outside, it looked perfect, too perfect. His mother was getting better, his sister's tuition was handled. He no longer worried about money, but in those quiet Beverly Hills halls, something was always off. The staff moved like shadows, polite but distant. No one made eye contact unless they had to. They called him Mr. Walker, but only when necessary, and every exchange was clipped and formal. They all seemed afraid of Mrs. Evelyn, and that door on the second floor, always locked. Thick wood panels, 3 electronic locks, and 2 security guards posted nearby at all times. If Jordan asked about it, the reply never changed. Sorry, sir. That room is private. Mrs. Williams's orders. He tried to let it go and focus on the good. But at night, lying on soft silk sheets in a bedroom bigger than his old apartment, the questions haunted him. Why did she really marry me? What's behind that door? And how did she know so much about my family before we ever met? Mrs. Evelyn kept being kind yet remote. She looked strikingly youthful. Radiant skin, a spring in her step, eyes brimming with secrets. Some nights she sat with him at dinner and said little more than a few words. Other nights she jetted across the country for business and returned days later. One evening, Jordan noticed a light glowing from her private wing, the area no one else could enter. He walked down the hallway, heart thudding. Through a half-open window, he heard her speaking on the phone. What stunned him wasn't what she said. It was her voice. It didn't sound like an 85-year-old woman. It sounded young, emotional, vibrant, like a 30-year-old in a heated conversation. Jordan's pulse raced. Was she pretending to be older than she was? Or was something supernatural at play? That's when Brianna stepped into the picture. Brianna was Mrs. Evelyn's personal assistant, a beautiful young woman from Atlanta who had been with the family for years. Unlike the rest of the staff, she smiled now and then. She didn't seem afraid of Mrs. Evelyn, only respectful. Jordan felt he might be able to talk to her. One evening, while she was arranging books in the library, he approached. "Brianna," he said softly, "can I ask you something?" She looked up, calm and composed. "Of course, Mr. Walker. I want to spend time with my wife. I feel like I don't really know her yet, but I don't know the proper way to ask." Her face brightened. "That's wonderful, sir. Mrs. Williams has been waiting for you to say that. She talks about you often when you're not around." Jordan blinked. "She does?" "Yes. She'll be thrilled you want to see her. I'll speak to her now." Within minutes, Brianna returned with a message. "Mrs. Williams will see you in her private quarters at 10 p.m. She said she's very happy." That evening, Jordan prepared himself. He wasn't only curious, he needed answers. This was his chance to finally understand who Mrs. Evelyn truly was and why she had chosen him. At exactly 10 p.m., he walked to her wing. When the door opened, his eyes widened. She looked breathtaking. The silver hair was gone, replaced by thick black curls. Her skin glowed with youth. Her eyes sparkled, and she moved with the grace of a woman in her prime. Dressed in silk loungewear, she stood in the doorway with a gentle smile. For a moment, Jordan couldn't speak. "Come in, my dear," she said. "I've been waiting." The room felt warm and welcoming. Soft music played, and candlelight filled the space. It no longer felt cold or mysterious. It felt like home. As they sat on the couch, Jordan couldn't hold back. "Mrs. Evelyn, how is this possible? You look so young, so different." "I don't understand." She smiled slowly. "Age is just a number, Jordan. When a woman is truly loved, something magical awakens inside her. Her spirit becomes timeless." Jordan listened as she spoke with deep feeling. Not like the executive who signed contracts and issued orders, but like a woman who had longed for love all her life. "I haven't just made you my husband, Jordan," she said softly. "I've given you my heart." She shared stories he never expected. Growing up poor in Alabama, building a catering business from a tiny kitchen, facing racism, sexism, and heartbreak, and pushing through. Men had used her, lied to her, and wanted only her money. "I never thought I'd meet someone who looked at me with kindness," she whispered, voice trembling. Not pity, not greed. Kindness. Jordan sat quietly, holding her hand. "I came into this marriage for practical reasons," he admitted. "But tonight, sitting here with you, I realize I don't truly know you, but I want to." Tears gathered in Mrs. Evelyn's eyes. "For 40 years I've hidden pieces of myself. Tonight I want you to see the real me." They talked until the candles burned low. Not about money, business, or fame, but about dreams, fears, pain, and hope. Jordan began to see her not as a wealthy older woman, but as someone who had fought battles, lost love, and still carried a heart full of hope. Yet even in that beautiful moment, one question still haunted him. What's behind that locked door? The answer was coming sooner than he expected. 3 peaceful days passed. For the first time since the wedding, Jordan felt he was beginning to understand Mrs. Evelyn, not as a billionaire or his elderly wife, but as a human being. They shared dinner nightly, traded stories, and laughed. Their relationship began to feel real, not forced. Though Jordan still had doubts, he couldn't deny what was growing in his heart. A strange new respect, perhaps even love. Still, the locked room on the second floor hovered in his mind. It whispered to him like a ghost whenever he walked by. No matter how gorgeous the mansion was, that door made it feel like a cage. He needed answers. On the 4th day after that magical evening, the opportunity came. Mrs. Evelyn had flown to New York for an emergency board meeting. Most senior staff traveled with her. Only a few junior employees remained. The house felt unusually quiet. That morning, Jordan rose early, walked down the hallway, and stopped in front of the door. Something was different. It was slightly ajar. For weeks, it had been locked and guarded. Now it stood still and silent, almost inviting him in. Jordan hesitated, his heart pounding. He stepped inside. The air felt cooler, the room utterly still. It wasn't a bedroom or an office. It was a memorial, a space frozen in time. Photographs covered every wall, hundreds of them. Old newspaper clippings, business features, awards, handwritten letters, and birthday cards sat neatly on a large, mahogany table. The curtains were drawn, but light slipped through the seams, bathing the room in a soft golden glow. Jordan moved closer and picked up a framed photo. His hand began to tremble. In it stood his father, Marcus Walker, beside a much younger Evelyn. They looked happy, truly in love, arm in arm at what looked like a beach resort. Another photo, his father and Evelyn at a formal event, dressed to the nines, smiling, holding hands. Then a letter in his father's handwriting. "Evelyn, you are the strongest woman I've ever known. I love you deeply. Even if the world may never understand us, I promise, one day I'll make it right." The frame slipped from Jordan's fingers. The truth struck like thunder. His father and Mrs. Evelyn had once been in love. Before he could take another step, a soft voice sounded behind him. So, you finally found it. He turned. Mrs. Evelyn stood in the doorway. She had returned early. She wasn't angry or surprised, only tired, like someone who had carried a heavy secret for far too long. "I was waiting for you to open that door," she said quietly. Jordan stared at her. "You knew my father." "I didn't just know him," she whispered. "I loved him." She walked into the room, lifted a photograph and gazed at it with sorrowful eyes. "We met when I was 45 and he was 35. Your father helped me build part of this empire. He made me believe I could be loved again." She paused. "We were together for 5 years, secretly. I asked him to marry me. I thought we'd be together. Forever." Jordan's voice cracked. "So what happened?" She drew a long breath. "He left me. Said he couldn't marry an older woman, that people would mock him, call him a gold digger. He told me he cared, but not enough to destroy his reputation." Jordan sank into a chair, the world spinning. "So you married me to get back at him?" Mrs. Evelyn nodded slowly. "I was angry. I never got over what your father did. When I learned he had a son, I watched from a distance. I saw your pain and your struggles. I waited for the perfect moment. I wanted revenge." She looked down at her hands. "I wanted to make you feel small. I wanted to own your life, the way your father once made me feel like I was nothing." Jordan felt the floor drop beneath him. His marriage, the mansion, the help for his mother and sister, it had all been part of a plan for revenge. He stood, breathing hard. "I trusted you," he said. "You offered me a way out. You said you cared about me. Was it all a lie?" Tears shimmered in Mrs. Evelyn's eyes. "It started that way, yes. But then something changed." Her voice softened. "Every time you showed me kindness, every time you looked at me without judgment, something inside me began to heal." She stepped closer. "I don't know when it happened, Jordan. Maybe it was when you listened to my stories without rolling your eyes. Maybe it was that night in my private room. When you asked about the real me, I stopped seeing you as Marcus's son and started seeing you as the man who showed me a love I hadn't felt in 40 years. Silence. Only their breathing. Two hearts trying to absorb the truth." Jordan closed his eyes and remembered their late-night talks, the warmth in her voice, the way she looked at him across the dinner table. Could someone who planned revenge truly fall in love? He opened his eyes and spoke gently. "I forgive you." Mrs. Evelyn broke down, tears spilling freely. She sank to her knees. "I don't deserve your kindness, Jordan." He helped her up. "Maybe not, but maybe this is your chance to become someone new." From that moment, everything changed. No more secrets. No more locked doors. Mrs. Evelyn told him everything. Her life, her pain, her victories, her loneliness. Jordan forgave her completely, not because she had earned it, but because he chose peace. Over the next few months, she taught him the workings of her empire. Slowly, Jordan became more than a husband. He became a partner. But life had one last twist. 6 months later, Mrs. Evelyn fell ill. Her health declined quickly. The nation's best doctors flew in, but nothing helped. In her final days, she held Jordan's hand and whispered, "You healed a wound older than you. My last wish is that you continue what I started, but do it with love, not revenge." She passed peacefully, surrounded by people she once kept at arm's length. At the funeral, Jordan stood with her picture in his hands and said, "Evelyn, your love was complicated, but it was real, and I'll carry it with me forever." Life still had blessings in store. Brianna, the assistant who had helped him meet Mrs. Evelyn that night, began visiting more often. She helped him run the empire. They laughed, worked, and leaned on each other. A year later, they married in the same mansion. Jordan's mother moved in. His sister graduated and became a manager at one of the family's tech firms. The house that had once been cold and full of secrets became warm and full of life. From this story, we learn a powerful truth. Sometimes love begins in pain. Sometimes forgiveness is the only way to break free. And sometimes the people who enter your life for the wrong reasons can still leave the right kind of mark on your heart.